And the fact that you really have to try and find your way to God, that you have to try and work your way to being in a relationship with Him, to even feel worthy enough to be righteous, is utterly disgusting. What's good, everybody? Welcome to this deconstruction of a video. I am the Omnius Rome. This is one of my series, From Jesus to Non-Believer. If you don't know, I was somebody who was truly and divinely into the church. I was a Bible thumper, a Jesus lover. Everybody knew me for that up until I was 17 going on 18, and when 2017 hit, I decided to give away Christianity. I then came into omnism, which is basically seeing every particular belief as a different expression for truth. So that is where I stand today. In this video, we are going to be discussing and breaking down the perception of falling away from the glory of God. And I really want to break down and really analyze this concept of why do so many Christians and so many religious people have this mindset and this mentality and this ideal and this energy of condemning themselves and shaming themselves and thinking that they are not worthy to be divine or to be in alignment with the divine. So before we get in any further into this video, make sure that you like the video, share with a couple of people or so, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe, and turn on your notifications as well. So I have 4 outlines for this video concerning the basis of this topic. The first one is creating a perception of distance from God. The second one is shaming sexuality and sexual pleasure. The third one is instilling fear of divine punishment. And the fourth one is promoting a culture of judgment and conformity. And so each of these reasons and these 4 things are basically what the church and what religion does and uses to make a person feel guilty, to make a person feel like that they are not worthy enough in order for them to become one with God. Now, what inspired this conversation is that I was having a beautiful conversation, a beautiful dialogue and constructive dialogue with one of my good friends, and they were telling me that they feel like that they are not worthy enough to be in the presence of God, that they feel like that they have fallen short of the glory of God, that they are not good enough to say that they are a Christian or that they are a follower of Christ. And I just have to say that that mentality is utterly disgusting. The reason why I say that this mentality is disgusting is because we were created perfectly in the image of supreme divine consciousness. That our spirit, our soul, and our energy comes from the divine source and is the I am. And so when we are in alignment with the I am from within, we are acting out our God-like energy. So when we say we are gods, we are one with God. We are identifying with the Father and the Mother. But a lot of people don't want to identify with the I am. They don't want to call themselves gods because they feel like it's egotistical, it's narcissistic, it makes them be arrogant or egotistical or whatever the case is. But in reality, you are just being in alignment with your very nature. Everything in nature is God basically acting out whatever it is. Everything in nature, from the birds, the bees, the ants, the trees, the sky, the clouds, the sun, plants, everything is God acting out in one way or another. And so we have been given this mentality, we have been programmed to think that God is outside of ourselves, that we have to find a way to reach out to God, to get in contact with God, to try and find some type of link to God, when God has been here this whole time. God has always been within and has been nearby this whole time. Even in the Bible, Jesus will always tell the people that the kingdom of God is near. The kingdom of God is at hand. Because the kingdom of God cannot be seen with observation. He even told the Pharisees this, that the kingdom of God is within you. So when you come to an understanding that God does not dwell in temples and houses and churches made by the hands of men, but dwell within the body, you will then come to an understanding that you are one with the divine consciousness. This will give you the obligation and the ability and the privilege not to do whatever you want to do, but to do what thou wilt, to do what you were purposed here to do on this earth. And so a man cannot serve two masters. He must become his own. And with this understanding, you can have the ability to really live the life that you truly deserve to live deliciously. But a lot of people have been given this concept, as we, the first reason, they have been given this concept of being distant from God. And within this outline, some of the examples of this perception of being distant and being far away from God is, emphasizing on the concept of original sin and inherent unworthiness, associating personal struggles with a perceived separation from divine grace, utilizing language that reinforces feelings of spiritual inadequacy. I'm gonna work on that. Inadequacy. Lord have mercy. Inadequacy. Fostering dependency on the church for redemption and closeness to God, and reinforcing the idea that only through specific actions and rituals can one regain favor. Now, I want to deal with 3 of these specifically. Okay, the first one dealing with emphasizing on the concept of original sin. When you really study the Adam and Eve story and the mythology of the Adam and Eve story, you come to an understanding that the God of the Bible is not also righteous. And on another hand, he's not the only one that is deemed a God, because he is dealing with a particular council. There are a council of gods. There's not just one God when you're dealing with the Hebrew mythology. You're dealing with Baal, you're dealing with Asherah, you're dealing with Asherah and Yahweh and their 70 sons. You're dealing with Molech, you're dealing with a lot of different entities. When you really study, and there's a book dealing with Yahweh and the Canaanite gods, really well in-depth book that really shows you that the beginning or the origin aspects of the Hebraic religion was not monotheistic. It was very polytheistic, but they always put Yahweh as the chief God. That was the one who wanted the most praise, the most admiration, the everything, right? But when dealing with original sin, if you really study the Bible and you study the story for what it is, God lied to Adam and Eve, because the representation of enlightenment, the snake, the serpent, was demonized and has been demonized throughout the church in many different ways, even to such a point where the serpent is somehow a mythological character called Satan, who is not even in the Bible. What? Yes, Satan, the devil, this mythological character that you've been programmed to believe in, does not exist. He is not taught in the Jewish culture. You learn about Satan in the Christian culture. The Roman Catholic Church had to create an entity in order to instill fear in the masses. But originally, there is no devil character. Even when you go back to the origins of the word Satan, a person who was a Satan in the Bible was an adversary, an opposer, somebody who was a challenger, someone who was a rebel. And many different people, many different characters in the Bible were considered a Satan. So how about them apples? Getting back to the story though, Eve have been basically women, because of Eve, have been demonized and have been considered the reason why sin was brought into the world. And so it's because of how the men, even when you look at the Hebrew stories, the men subjugate their women and they objectify their women and they treat them like property. They do not give them any form of admiration or any type of position of power. When you really study the Hebraic culture for what it is in the Old Testament. And so, all because of Eve. Supposedly Eve is the one that is responsible, is put the full blame on for sin being brought into the world, when really it's not even on Eve. The serpent, like I said before, is a symbol of enlightenment. It's the kundalini within man. And all these Bible stories are not real. These are metaphysical and mythological and allegorical for what goes on within and also without. We're dealing with energy. We're dealing with science. And so the serpent enlightened Eve to eat of the forbidden fruit and to be enlightened. And Eve motivated and inspired Adam to eat of the fruit and also be awakened. And so when God went back to his council, he did not tell them that the serpent lied to them and deceived them. He said exactly what the serpent told Eve. Because the serpent told Eve, you're not going to die. You're going to be dressed like them, knowing good and evil. When Yahweh, the demiurge, went back to the pantheon, when Yahweh went back to the other gods, to the council, he said they have become like us, knowing good and evil. And if they're going to eat from that tree of life, they're going to live forever. That don't sound like that we messed up the world. That don't sound like humanity has been messed up. That sounds like we have a threat. We have a situation here, and if we let this get out of hand, this could jeopardize our divinity. This could jeopardize our authority. So they kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. The Tower of Babel, when all the different nations and congregation of people were coming together so that they could build the Tower of Babel, God went back to his congregation again and said, if they build this tower, what else might they do? There's no stopping them. So he goes down and confuses their languages, confuses the way that they can communicate with one another, and they all disperse. Why is it that this God has such a disdain towards enlightening the masses and towards the masses being enlightened? What is it? What is this beef that he has with humanity to where he don't want them to be independent? He wants them to be strictly dependent upon him. That makes no sense. But getting back to the topic at hand, the other thing that I also want to deal with is utilizing language that reinforces the feelings of spiritual inadequacy. And the reason why I want to emphasize on this is because I heard in a podcast earlier today that and this was a woman who was talking about the divine feminine, and she was talking about how basically in this world that the divine feminine has been demonized to such a point that even when you study the aspects of the left hand path and the right hand path and chaos and order, even the aspect of the left hand path and chaos have been demonized to such a point that when you even go back to the word the left hand path or being left handed, you go back to the word sinister. When you find the origin of the left hand path or the left hand, left-handed to be left to the left hand or the left, when you study it from the Latin origin, you get sinister. So even the way of the feminine is considered sinister. It's considered undivine, unholy, perverted, evil. So even with certain ideologies and certain words that we use in our language have demonized the divine feminine. Even when using the word whore and harlot and hoe, these words were also positive according to the divine feminine, but because of language and culture that has changed over time, they have demonized these terminologies. So being the whore is no longer a woman who contains the light, who contains wisdom, who contains enlightenment, who can heal men and relieve them of their burdens on a spiritual spectrum. It's the woman who was out here on the street trying to manipulate men, trying to get to that money, to get to that bag, hot girl, city girl, all this other type of stuff, trying to do what best benefits and pleasures them on a carnal level. And so getting into number 2, shaming sexuality and sexual pleasure, a lot of us who were raised up in the church were taught to be disassociated with our sexuality. We have been taught that sex is evil, sex is bad, sex is perverted, to such a point that even in certain church systems of Catholicism, that certain, nuns, monks, the priests, they are seen to be so divine and holy and righteous that they do not want to corrupt their righteousness and their divinity with a woman. That sounds sus. I don't want to believe in any God that doesn't have a wife. That just don't make any sense. You mean to tell me every culture, every chief god, every high god has a wife, has a divine feminine, has a woman by his side, and your God doesn't? That's a little sus. I'm just saying, that's a little sus. You never asked the question, like, why does Yahweh not have a wife? And Yahweh does have a wife. When you really study your Canaanite gods, Yahweh's wife is Asherah. But She's not talked about. She's discarded. She's cast to the side. Even when dealing with the Holy Trinity, they have taken out the Divine Mother and replaced it with a spook, with a ghost. In another aspect, you could also see that the Divine Mother is the hidden one, you know, when dealing with the left-hand path. But on another spectrum, on a surface level, is unrecognizable. There's no respect for the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother is casted off of her throne, and it's always about the Father. It's always about the man. And so when it comes to shame and sexuality and shame and sexual pleasure, we have always associated our sexual pleasures and our sexuality with pervertedness, to such a point that even when we get horny or when we get into the fields of being sexual, we want to be called freaks. We want to call it nasty. We want to call it being a pervert. And we have also, like I said, you know, when we use language to demonize certain things, we have also used language to demonize our sexual pleasures and our sexuality, which is our very nature. You go outside and you're going to see a random dog humping another dog. Now, I'm not telling you to go out here just humping and grinding with random people, but I'm telling you that sex is about as natural as common daylight. And into number 3, instilling fear of divine punishment. For some reason, people have their commitment, they have this loyalty and their commitment to God because they don't want to go to hell. And a lot of people, and when I was getting rid of Christianity, like when I was really analyzing and deconstructing it for what it was, and I knew that Christianity was given to black people because of slavery. I knew that the Jesus story, the Jesus myth has been told for thousands of years in multiple different ways. The only thing that I really had to confirm now was, is there a hell? And once I understood that a spirit cannot be consumed, energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transferred, that's when I knew that hell could not exist. Because if I am from the originator, if I am from the divine source, and my energy and my spirit and my soul comes from the divine source, and the divine source cannot be created or destroyed, that means my spirit, my soul cannot be consumed. God is considered a consuming fire. And I like, come on now. So if I consuming fire, if I come from the divine spark, how can hell exist? Why do I have fear of hell if I am hell? If I am fire? As Shaka Zulu said, you tell us about hell. Around here, we eat fire. You see what I'm saying? We come from that. We come from fire. We come from the divine spark. We come from energy. Also, did you know that hell is not in the Bible? What? But turn around. Jesus talks about hell. No, he talks about Gehenna. And Gehenna was used as a metaphor or a figure of speech. The Jews didn't believe in a hell. So why would Jesus even bring up a new concept? There was Sheol. There was no hell. What about the lake of fire at the end times? The lake of fire is not real either. The lake of fire is supposed to be a representation of the rebirth, the regeneration. You ever hear this phrase of, you shall rise from the ashes like a phoenix? This hell fire, fire and brimstone, is supposed to be a cleansing, not a consuming moment of you going and being casted off forever. But hell and Satan and the Antichrist and the beast, they were all casted into the hell, into the lake of fire. Yes, these are things within yourself where you get rid of the bad, the things that no longer benefit you, and transform them into power. Transform them into things that you can utilize. Duh. That's the renewal. The new heaven and a new earth is the new mind and the new body. It's just talking about yourself. There is not going to be a second coming. There's not going to be a heaven falling from the sky. There's not going to be Jesus with a mass of angels just slaughtering everybody. That's not, y'all, as much as I love mythology, y'all got to get out of the comics. This all happens from within. The second coming of Christ is you. You are the second coming. You are supposed to be a walking example of that Christ energy. All hell is a fear tactic to get people to believe in more so of their condemnation and their misdeeds and their shortcomings rather than their identity. It's to keep them off focus and to keep them distracted from who they aren't. It's to keep them distracted from who they are and rather focusing on who they aren't. To keep feeding these lies that they're not good enough, they're unworthy, they're dirty, they're sinful, and just keep feeding into these lies that they keep giving to themselves because of the church, because the church feeds off of fear. If there was no fear instilled in the church, if there was no condemnation or judgment or condemnation in the church, you wouldn't have a packed church. Christianity wouldn't be one of the major religions in the world. Because the only reason why Christianity, even in itself, is a major religion in the world was through fear, was through bloodshed. They didn't want to talk about that though. The only reason why black people in America are Christian, majority of them, is because it was instilled in them, enforced in them through slavery.
But Christianity was in Ethiopia before.
They ain't got nothing to do with nothing. We come from West Africa, Negro. Ethiopia is merely 5% of Africa. And even with Christianity being in Ethiopia, Christianity was the king of Ethiopia was converted to Christianity by a white man. Negro. So what are you talking about? Yes, the origins of Christianity derive from Africa. When you study the story of Jesus, you get the Haru story, you get the hero story, the Osirian drama. Yes, we understand that. But the religion that you practice, the Christian religion that you practice, came from the plantation. It came from the massa. It didn't come from Ethiopia. And if it did, I want you in the comments to tell me what traditions that you practice derive from Ethiopia. You say you practice, you say the Christianity was in Ethiopia somehow. I don't know how that has to do with anything. But if you claim that black people, we got Christianity and it came from Ethiopia, well, okay, you show me the books that you got in your little King James Bible. Because in Ethiopia, they got about another 20 books that aren't even in the King James Bible. Yes, Ethiopia has one of the oldest denominations in Christianity. But also there's over 40,000 denominations in Christianity. And the Christianity, the religion that you was given in the plantation, is so dirty. It is so perverted, not authentic, it's impure. And yet you going on this rabbit hunt, this goose chase, trying to find the right translations. What does this really mean in the book? And you're following after material stuff. Even in the Bible, it tells you not to follow after the letter, but after the spirit. Why are you following after a book? Why does it matter how committed you are to a book? Yes, the book has a lot of good stuff in it. The book can help you on your spiritual journey. The book can show you the way. Once the book gives you the milk that you need in your journey, now it's time for the meats. Now it's time for you to be led by the spirit. Because once you're led by the spirit, why does it matter about the book? Because now you in tune, you tapped in with the original source now. Once you tapped in with the original source, what do I need the book for? See, now we're talking about leveling up. Yes, books are great. I have a lot of books. I learn from a lot of books. But a man who knows one book knows none. And so many Christians and religious people and a lot of our people are so conditioned to only be captivated by one book. They let everybody else rule over them and be smarter and more intelligent by learning from different books and different ideologies and different people and different cultures. and you thinking everything is so bad and evil, and
I don't want to learn about that. I want to learn about this. No, that's witchcraft. Ooh, that's demonic. Ooh, that's satanic. Ooh, why you got Baphomet behind you?
that's why you down and out. Didn't it say in the Bible as well, my people suffer for lack of knowledge? And you the stupid Negro. He got Baphomet behind him. He got Baphomet. That's Satan. I don't want to listen to nothing that Negro got to say. As an old saying goes, if you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a goddamn book. And that's what they've been doing. But, like I was saying before, yes, the Bible holds a lot of great information. But don't depend on the Bible. The Bible have been mistranslated for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Don't depend on the book. Depend on what is from within. The book is going to show you where to find the source. Once you find the source from within, you good. Once you tapped in, you good. Once you got the hotline blinged, that can only mean one thing. You good. And lastly, promoting a culture of judgment and conformity. A lot of Christians, a lot of people in this faith have been brought up to judge the next person instead of showing love to the next person. Instead of you showing love and compassion to your brother or to your sister, you want to judge them because of how they personally live their life. Instead of you showing compassion and love and casting forth your light, which is something Jesus also told you to do. Jesus told you to cast forth your light to the world that men may see your good works. He also tells you to love your neighbor as yourself. But I see more Christians casting forth hate and darkness rather than love. Show me one time where Jesus was going around telling people, oh, you doing this, you going to hell. Only if you really want to look at it for what it is, Jesus was more so condemning the Pharisees and the so-called righteous people rather than the sinners. He would be an open person, an open door to people that you wouldn't even walk in the midst of. Jesus was so open to people who were considered outcasts and low down and perverted that he looked in the face of the Pharisees, the people who were considered righteous and holier than thou and in tune with God, told them that your father is the devil. Your father is evil. Told them that their God Yahweh was the evil one. He told the Pharisees, who were so high and mighty and who had their Bible and their crystals and crystal popping and their incense, that the prostitute and the tax collector will get into the kingdom, will be more in tune with God, will be connected with God before you. How can that be? How is that so? This is how controversial, but this is also how in tune Jesus was when it came to spirituality. People get mad at me because you saying you God. How you gonna say you God? You ain't God, and that's blasphemous. Really? Same thing they told Jesus. Jesus told the Pharisees, "Me and the Father is one. When you see me, you see the Father." They were about to stone this man. They were about to get the blicky on him. He's like, what y'all get mad for? They like, because you said you God. You claiming that you God. He's like, didn't it say in your Bible that ye are gods and children of the Most High? Boy, they got mad at Jesus when he told them, before Abraham was born, I am. What? Before Abraham was born, the father of many nations, the father of the faith, before Abraham was born, you was in existence, and nobody understands that. And yeah, Jesus was connecting himself, aligning himself with God, but he was also showing the reflection and showing an example of who you were as well. That's why Jesus told the disciples, the works I do, you can do also and greater. When he said that I am the way, the truth, and the life. He wasn't speaking of his own accord, of his own testimony. He was saying the I am, the spirit, the soul is the way, the truth, and the life. The Son of Man is within you. It tells you this in the Gospel of Mary, in one of the Gnostic Gospels. The Son of Man is not coming in the sky. He's not coming back. The Son of Man is here. And really ask yourself, if I can have Jesus and you can have Jesus and the next person can have Jesus and we all got Jesus at the same time, and Jesus was supposedly physically brought up into heaven, how does that make sense? How do I have Jesus, you got Jesus, he got Jesus, and the next person got Jesus, and yet Jesus is only one person? That can only mean that Jesus was never a physical character, but a concept, an ideology, but even more so, a symbol of your soul, a symbol of your spirit. Jesus being the Son of Man, being the soul of man, the soul within man. Christ representing the state of consciousness that he had. No more than Buddha. Buddha is a title for somebody who had a certain state of consciousness, for being enlightened. But here you go, you want to judge everybody, and you don't want to spread forth the love. And even in your own Bible, it tells you that if you can be the greatest among men, you could be the greatest of Christians and everything like that, but if you don't have love, you ain't on the list. You are not of God if you do not spread love. And I would like to think that I spread a lot of love. I spread a lot of inspiration to people. I might troll a lot, that's a given. But I would like to think that the best way that I can cast forth and show love to people is through information and enlightenment and just sparking that curiosity in you and that skepticism in you. And all you're getting, get understanding. And a lot of people in the church have been taught not to question God. Well, if anybody, you should question God. Isn't he the one with all the answers? Even the church has taught you to shut down your intellectual ability to criticize and analyze and deconstruct the things that you believe. That is somehow evil. It's a sin. It's forbidden for you to question something that you were programmed and brought up to believe in. You never ask yourself, like, why is that? Why is it that the church, my mother, my father, the pastor, why is it that they have conditioned me to not question my beliefs, to question God? That if I was to even somehow look at certain things outside of my faith, all of a sudden it's the devil leading me astray? You ever ask yourself that maybe what I believe in is false? That maybe what I believe in might not be what I think it is? Because I've been placed in a box? These are things that I had to ask for myself. I had to figure out for myself. And I'm the only person in my family who did that journey and came to be who I am today. And I want to encourage you to be that same person in your life and in your family, and be that person, that light within your space. So cast forth your light. Spread the love. Spread the love. That's what all of this is about. So hopefully this reaches out, this touches somebody, and really opens up somebody's mind to really understanding the basis of this type of conversation and these concepts. And I will be talking about more things around these matters concerning deconstructing Christianity and things of that sort. Till next time, I'm Tyrone. Like I said, make sure you like that video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share this video with somebody if you feel like this would be very inspirational and motivational and really inspiring for them to really have these type of conversations with, whether they're religious or non-religious, whatever the case is. And before you go, check out this video, because you don't want to miss that one. Alright, so it was a good video. Till next time, we out.